had this keyboard for about 2 months, and today I'm returning it. I'm gonna tell you why. If you're new here, what's going on? Welcome to my channel. My name is Aaron Hunter. I sometimes do tech gear reviews. I sometimes talk tech, and sometimes I talk about AWS. But today I'm going to talk to you about the Logitech MX Keys S keyboard, why I bought it, what I like about it, what I dislike about it, and whether or not it might be right for you. So I guess the first thing I should talk about is, why am I getting a new keyboard? Well, this keyboard is the Logitech K800. I've had it for about 10 years. There's really nothing wrong with it. It has pretty good battery life. It's a really good keyboard. It has some solid enough construction. If you twist it, it does twist, it does bend, and I'll tell you more about the Logitech MX Keys S and how that one's pretty solid. This keyboard, the K800, has a micro USB, so that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm replacing the keyboard. Just because it's one less cable when I'm traveling or to charge on my desk or something. So that's the main reason. But let's go ahead and talk about the Logitech MX Keys S keyboard. If you didn't already check it out, check out the unboxing video from the Logitech MX Keys S. I'll have a card up here or up here. I don't really know what I'm doing right now. But in that video, I'll have some B-roll on the screen right now. And what you can see is what's inside the box. There's a keyboard, the Logitech USB-A receiver, and then there is a cable. There's a USB-C to USB-A cable. The cable can't be used as a data transfer, so it is only there to use for charging. So if you plug your keyboard or the cable into your keyboard and then the cable into your laptop, it's not going to work for you. So here's the keyboard. It's a really good keyboard. It has a really good thin profile. You can barely see the keyboard. I mean, you can see it, but it's pretty thin from like a keyboard standpoint. The responsiveness of the keyboard is pretty nice. I like how it sounds. You can kind of hear that now. It sounds really nice. It sounds really smooth. On the box itself, Logitech says these are ultra fluid typing keys, or they're almost like, it's like a butterfly spring, I guess is what they call it. The power switch is right here on the back. And what that means is I have to reach, it's a very small problem. It's not even a problem at all. I'm making it a problem. But you have to reach around and then turn the keyboard on and off. On my K800, I have the power button right on the top. It's not a problem, so it may not be a problem for you. Here's one thing that I dislike about this keyboard, and it's the same thing with my Logitech MX Master 3S mouse. You see that? It's only one green dot. And on the K800, what you can see is right there, there's several dots. The advantage of having several dots, you can tell when the battery is about to run out a lot faster, a lot better than just all of a sudden this green dot, which doesn't even stay on all the time, but the green dot all of a sudden just going red and then you miss it. It's even worse with the mouse, not gonna lie, because the mouse, it's right here in my hand. I'm not gonna look down on my hand as I'm doing stuff, but at least with the keyboard, it's a little bit better. The things that I dislike about it, I've already mentioned a few of them, but here you can see the function buttons are all crammed together. Well, here's one. The escape key right here is a little bit larger, and I'll get a different photo of that on the screen. The function buttons are crammed together. So F1, F2, F3, F4 are together as typical. So on my K800, F1, 2, 3, and 4 are all together. But my fingers, when I'm typing, and I've been typing on the same keyboard for about 10 years now, my fingers, I found, actually look for the space in between the F4 and F5. So I have to look down at my keyboard, which disrupts me quite a bit. I tried to get around it. I used the keyboard for about 2 months, and I just really couldn't get around the fact that that space isn't there. So it's probably just a problem on my end, and I will see if I can figure out something else in the future, because I really want a USB-C powered keyboard. There is a bump in the back for some ergonomics. It's this little bump right here, and you can kind of see it. Here's the thing though. Here's another thing that I dislike about it. The bump does add a little bit of elevation. It does allow the keyboard to slightly lift off the desk. But if you think about the lack of customization that it provides. There is no kickstand on this thing. There's not a single kickstand or a single foot. Let me go ahead and pull up my K800 keyboard one more time, because that's what I'm comparing it to. That's what I have. Maybe you have a keyboard that has a kickstand. So on the K800, what you can see is there's these little feet right here. And these little feet allow for this adjustability. And this adjustability, this little thing, because there is a little lip on this K800, you can kind of see that. So it still does sit off the desk a little bit. But these feet allow the keyboard to just raise just enough to where it's at a different angle. And it's an angle that I prefer. I know some people, they prefer the keyboard to be flat. I prefer the keyboard to be a little bit more tilted. The only way that I can find to do that is to buy a third-party mount or lever or something, and I have found some. But what if I travel? Then I have to travel with something else. Then it should be built into the keyboard. For a $110 keyboard, it should be built into the keyboard, and it's not. So those two things, honestly, those two things, the fact that the function buttons, well, the escape button is a little bit larger, and that pushes the function buttons slightly offset to what I'm used to. And there's no space in between the F4 and F5, and I can't adjust the keyboard. That's why I'm sending it back. I could probably get used to the keys. I could probably get used to how they type. I actually don't mind how they type. They seem pretty responsive. When I worked with them, they were responsive enough. It does take some getting used to. Going from one keyboard to a different keyboard, any keyboard is going to be different. So there is that adjustment period that you have to get used to it. I couldn't get used to the fact that the function keys were in the wrong spot. To my mind, they're in the right spot for if that's all you know. But for me, they were in the wrong spot. This is the full-size keyboard. So it does have, there's a mini version. So imagine everything here and this way. Imagine all of this gone. That's the mini version, but this is the full version. So it does include the additional buttons here. The D-pad is what this is called. It does include these buttons here. It does include the 10 key. And it also does have the quick select. So the easy switch is what it's called. The things that I like about it, it has a really clean design. It has a really slim layout. There's a small bump in the back for minimal ergonomics. The switches are pretty quiet. The buttons, the keys are pretty quiet. But the keys don't really move or wobble, so that's also an added benefit. If you compare the keys to my K800, it's about the same. You can hear the Logitech MX Keys S. And then now you can hear the Logitech K800. It's pretty similar. The things that I don't like about this keyboard, I rambled off a whole lot earlier, but in a list for you, it doesn't have adjustable legs. I really like adjustable legs. There's a dimple in the keycap right here. You can kind of see that. It's like a little dimple. That throws my fingers off. I'm used to smooth, flat keycaps. So when I go to look for the next key, I look for the space in between the keys. And when my finger goes up a little bit and then hits that space, it just throws my fingers off. So I have to look at the keyboard a lot. I can type over 100 words a minute, but not with this. I'm down to about 70 or 80 words a minute. That's kind of a bit. The function buttons at the very top, by default, just plugging in the keyboard, the dongle, or pairing it with Bluetooth, the function buttons at the top of the keyboard act as non-function buttons. I just don't understand why that's even a thing. Why not make them function buttons? In order for them to be function buttons, you have to use software. Otherwise, it's gonna do the brightness and everything. Like, why? Who would think that's a good idea? I want my function buttons to act as function buttons. So maybe it's a good feature for some. Maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Am I getting old? Don't answer that. Okay, fine, answer that. Some people said online that it's heavy. I don't think it's heavy. I feel like it's lighter than my K800. There's no wired only mode. I'm looking at my notes here. So some people complain that they want to have the option to keep the backlight always on. I wouldn't like that. I don't prefer that because then you're going to drain your battery even faster than it already drains. One person said that there isn't an option for the USB dongle to be stored. So if you use this keyboard as a Bluetooth only keyboard, because that is an option, there's nowhere to put the USB dongle, and I could see that being a problem. For me, I do use the USB dongle, so I store it inside the laptop or inside of a hub. But for those who use it as a Bluetooth keyboard, keep in mind that may be a deal breaker for you because you can't lose that dongle, especially if you need to use the dongle in the future or if you plan on selling the keyboard to someone. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. Anyway, I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, like the video, share it with your friends. Maybe it'll convince you to get the keyboard. Maybe it'll convince you to not get the keyboard. Whatever your decision is, I hope it works out for you. Thanks again for watching the video. Consider subscribing for more content, tech gear content. I have a lot of it coming on the way. Also some AWS Cloud type content and also travel content too. So thanks again, and I will see you next time.